Sipo, can you hear me? You're on mute.
Yes, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm on a telecom signal, so I'm hoping it holds.
Oh, yeah. I'm also having a cell phone signal problem. I'm hoping it will be able to work.
Okay, I'm battling to hear you.
Are you battling to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me use the microphone. I think it's not working out.
Who else is connecting? Okay.
That sounded better.
Sounds better. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. You keeping well?
I'm keeping very well, thank you.
That's good.
Just getting tired of lockdown.
Got in?
Ah, there we go.
There's an echo. There's an echo. Is there somebody who's opening the thing?
No. Is it coming? Is it coming from my side?
It happens when somebody's opening Facebook or one of the lines.
Oh, okay.
Cracking.
If somebody,
No, it was,
then you get an echo.
oh no, not it's not on my side.
Can we?
Hey, Elsie.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good
How are
afternoon.
I'm
Good,
good, and
good.
how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Thank you.
Good. All right, we've got 5 minutes talk.
Yeah, I'm just
waiting for-
worried about this thing. If everybody can just switch off their smartphones. Yeah, I'm.
Okay.
Except those ones that they're using to connect.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Madam Speaker's in.
There is the delayed echo.
Greetings, Madam Speaker.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Hello. Hello. Can you
Good
hear me?
afternoon, Madam. Yes, we can.
Okay, better. Thank you.
Yeah. Are you well?
Hi.
Well, thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Nyati.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, councillors.
How are you?
Good,
Good afternoon.
good.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sipo.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker. How are you?
Good, thanks. I see we left with 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you. We bonile bobo. I guess so. We can see.
We've got 1 minute, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you very much, colleagues. I think we are going to start now. We are short of Councillor Zonela. So maybe she is still busy connecting. We will welcome her as she comes in. It's 4 o'clock on the dot. We are always punctual with these meetings. Doc, are we on track? You are muted, Doc.
Mm.
We are on track. I'm just worried that there is a delayed echo. Can everybody just
Okay, do we still have a delayed echo?
yeah, there is a delayed echo. If everyone can just accept the phone, if they can switch off Facebook, YouTube, just switch off those.
But Doug, you're the only person that has a delayed echo.
Okay.
Yeah, I
I
also
don't
think
have.
so, Councillor Mfik. You also have Councillor Nontenja?
No, I don't have a delayed echo. I can hear all of you as you speak.
Okay. All right, councillors, good morning. Good morning, Dr. Nyati. We have councillors with us this afternoon. We have Councillor Nontenja, who is the chairperson in fact, let me not introduce councillors, they will introduce themselves. When you introduce yourself, you will mention your name and your surname and the portfolio you are responsible for. If you are a PR councillor, you will explain the portfolio you are serving under. So this is the platform, councillors, is the speakers platform in partnership with Dr. Fundi Nyati. We have Sipo, who is the spokesperson in the Speaker's office. We have this platform every week, ever since the start of COVID-19, particularly the lockdown, because we realized that we cannot be found wanting. We need to communicate with our citizens on different aspects, especially on issues that affect them as citizens during this lockdown. We have had several discussions on this platform. We have spoken to different experts on this platform. If I can mention few of them, we have spoken about the impact of COVID-19 on mental health. Whether you currently have mental health or you don't have, but what is the impact of COVID-19 due to the stresses, the stress levels that COVID-19 brings about. We also had discussions with young people, the students, on how do they cope during this time as they are at home, staying with parents, and some of the students are learning now to learn online and they've never learned online before. We have also had a discussion with faith-based organizations on the impact of COVID-19 on their congregations, and also the fact that they cannot have congregations or services anymore like before, and also the traditional health practitioners on how do they cope with the current situation. So we have different topics every day, and we are really inviting you to listen to these topics. It's not every day, but every week, every Wednesday, this time at 4 o'clock. So today we are talking on the role of councillors. We actually came to realization that most of the time, especially this time of COVID-19, people are blaming councillors. It's about councillor this, councillor that, and we realize that it might happen that our communities, they are not very clear on what is the role of a councillor. So on this platform today, we are live on different platforms. We are live on Facebook, on Twitter, YouTube. So we are not alone as panelists. We are here as panelists. However, we are watched by number of viewers on these platforms that I have mentioned. Without waste of time, I just want to mention that the COVID-19 pandemic has proven to be a life-changing phenomenon the world over. So as societies continue to navigate their way gule unprecedented change, we are suddenly faced with the fact that our reality could change, and our reality could change forever. As of yesterday, we know that we are now above 10,000 people who are affected, with Gauteng having approaching, yesterday, Gauteng was approaching 2,000. I haven't seen today as to where do we stand as Gauteng, and Johannesburg yesterday was over 1,000. So given the regulations of lockdown, we have seen a number of challenges in our communities, which have made it increasingly difficult to manage stress levels, as I said, brought about by the current uncertainty. As we know, where there is stress, there is unrest. And most of the time, councillors being at the coalface of service delivery, they usually find themselves at the heartbeat of lama unrest. So all councillors, we know that they have a role, especially in the city of Johannesburg. We have oversight committees. We have Section 79 committees that oversee the implementation of the commitments by the executive. And those oversight committees, Dr. Nyati, are led by the chairpersons of committees, the chairpersons who will be introducing themselves. Welcome, Councillor Zonela. I see you are connecting. You are most welcome. So the chairpersons are heading these oversight committees. So they will explain their role, but it is to oversee the execution of the commitments made by the executive on managing the spread of coronavirus. We have received, as the legislature, the report from the executive, and that report was shared with the chairpersons on the meeting we had with the chair of chairs and the chairpersons of committees, and it was shared. So the chairpersons and the committees are clear on what their role is. I am not going to go through the roles, but I just want to welcome all the panelists present here this morning, and I'm going to request all of us to introduce ourselves. I have already introduced myself. I'm the Speaker of Council, and my name is Nongceba Mulweli. Doc, let me start with you. As we welcome Councillor Nandipha Zonela, we are on introductions. I have already laid the ground as to the reasons why you are here. If we could just.
Madam Speaker, if I can just come in, I just received a message from Udok. He's got a bit of a challenge with regards to the feedback that he's getting on his side. So he was hoping that he could just sit this one out for now. I don't know if you can hear me, Doc. But yeah, can I start and maybe just introduce myself quickly, Madam Speaker? My name is Sipho Masigo. I am the spokesperson to the Speaker of Council. Thank you very much, councillors, and thank you for joining us in this conversation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, Dr. Nyati. My name is Masidiso Msikwe. I am a PR councillor, also a chairperson of the portfolio committee called Environment and Infrastructure Services. Thank you.
Hi, I am Councillor Ndizonela. I am a PR councillor for the ANC.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nontenja.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Thandi Nontenja. I am a PR councillor. I'm also the chairperson of Municipal Public Accounts.
Thank you very much. Councillor Roberts. Councillor Roberts. Councillor Roberts. Okay, there's a problem there.
Okay.
Okay, I think, yes.
Sorry, Councillor Alison Roberts. I serve on the Infrastructure, Environment and Services. I serve with Councillor Fikwe. I do apologize if my signal is bad.
The signal is bad.
Okay, I said, Councillor Roberts, your signal is bad. If maybe you could change the position. Okay, thank you very much. I think that sounds better. Okay, councillors, I think we can continue. Dr. Nyati, do you still have a problem in terms of your connection?
Yes.
Okay, we can hear you now. Perfectly. Okay.
I'll just observe from far. Yeah.
From far, okay. All right. I'm also on the big screen. That's why you see my eyes sometimes go up. Okay. Councillors, can we start by maybe defining our role? How would you define your role within the community so that communities understand what is the role of councillor? Maybe we can start with Councillor Zonela.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think basically, besides the fact that the role of councillors is clearly defined in the Constitution as a sphere of government, the important thing on their role is that councillors need to serve communities in a sustainable manner. That's the first thing that they need to do. But over and above that, councillors need to follow through with the principles of Batupili, serve people with integrity, serve people with dignity without discriminating them, without discriminating them on the basis of their race, their sexuality, their socio-economic standing in the community. So that's basically what the role of the councillor is. But obviously, councillors don't do that information, that role, don't perform that role in isolation. It is a partnership that they enter into together with the communities. And I think as we proceed, we will be able to unpack what exactly it means to work in partnership with the community, especially when we're dealing with the issue of tackling the current pandemic that we're facing as a nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Zonela. Can we find from another councillor, Councillor Mtikwe?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to add a bit on what Councillor Zonela is saying, that councillors play many roles, but basically their role is serving a community. So it is important for councillors to be able to find a balance in serving different types of communities, including different sectors, in the area that they work with. Important for councillors to also put together stakeholders that are able to work with them. Councillors have what they call a ward committee that they need to ensure that at the beginning of every term of office, that ward committee is put together. The primary responsibility of the ward committee is to advise the ward council. In advising, it would mean that they also represent different stakeholders or sectors. You will find about 10 members of the ward committee. They must represent 10 sectors that are existing in the very committee. Then councillors, obviously our councillors have offices. We have two types of councillors, by the way, the ward councillor and the peer councillor that represents the parties in the council setup. So all those councillors, their responsibility is to work with these stakeholders. The partnership that Councillor Zonela speaks about, it's an important thing that as councillors we need to have, so that we are able to bring together different partners in saving our communities, be it on health-related issues, on crime-related issues, even on state, not necessarily crime, but on a whole lot of issues that might be affecting communities. NGOs that are able to support and give, maybe feed communities, child-headed homes, including sectors that are looking at early childhood development in their wards. So basically, and the ANC has made a decision, Madam Speaker, that each councillors will stay in the ward that they serve. So there is no way that you'll have a ward councillor for Ward 22, for instance, not staying in Ward 22. There is a dictate of the ANC, and I know Councillor Notenge might not cover all the parties that are in consent, but the ANC has made that decision. So that is basically the role of councillors: stay and serve your communities, put together stakeholders who are meant to help you in making it easy for you as a councillor to navigate challenges and issues that the community might have. They remain a bridge between the legislature and the executive in responding to their community issues, including other SOEs, Speaker, and you know that I work with service delivery. So my interest will be on the ESCOM electricity-related issues. The councillors are not ESCOM. Councillors do not work for ESCOM. Councillors' role is to raise the issues that communities have to ESCOM for ESCOM to resolve. We're finding communities fighting with councillors when they want to fight with ESCOM. For me, that is losing focus, because whatever fight we need to do with councillors and communities should be directed to ESCOM, not to our councillors. Thanks, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nontenja, a bite. Please unmute yourself, Councillor Nontenja.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Councillors are the representatives of the communities as they are elected by certain constituencies and communities. So they must play their role of being the servants of the communities that they live in. that they are serving. They must make sure that the communities get the correct information, and they must take the information that the communities give to them forward to the council. So they are the bridge between the council and the communities. And they become more than what they should be, because sometimes communities will come with the problems that don't need a councillor. But as a councillor, they look up to you as their leader. You have to direct them to the correct information center where they can get help. So we are the servants of the people.
Thank you very much. I think what I have captured, Sipho, but before Sipho comes in, what I have captured here is that councillors are mouthpiece, if maybe we can phrase it like that. But they are a bridge. I think that one of the speakers said they are a bridge between government or council and the communities. So they are not the actual, they don't practically deliver services, but they oversee the delivery of services, and they transfer, I mean, they communicate with government and bring back the responses to the communities, and they get the mandate from the communities to government. So they are a bridge. They not necessarily do so. And then you spoke of a service delivery. I think, Councillor Mfikwe, you raised the issue. You were very specific on ESCOM, that councillors don't necessarily switch on the lights, but they represent communities in government on their needs. So maybe the next question will be then, what are the challenges and the misconceptions about the role of councillors? Why do we see people marching and fighting with councillors when they are not satisfied or when there are service delivery issues? Sipho, do you have a bite? I see you raising your hand.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to all councillors. And mine is just a simple one, to remind everybody and thank them, those who are watching on Twitter and those who are watching on Facebook as well as YouTube, that you can send your questions that you might have. So on my part, Madam Speaker, I think you covered everything. Let's throw it back to the councillors to just help educate and inform our communities for what exactly their role and responsibilities are at this point.
Okay, yeah, the misconceptions about the role of councillors. Councillor Zone.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the issue is twofold. One rests in the nature of our democracy, because we have a participatory democracy which is activist driven. And given our history, 90% of the time, communities want to actively participate in certain issues, and they said sometimes there is a blurred line between how governance and government is supposed to work and how communities are expecting councillors to respond to their issues. The one other issue is that because of the unique nature that councillors hold, that Councillor Mfikwe spoke about, as I at the cold face of service delivery, they live amongst the people, and they are the very first point of reference that communities go to when they want to reach out into government. So sometimes, even when they want things to happen and they want the things to happen now, because the councillor is the representative and the face of government that they have got to, that they see, then those issues come up. I think a typical example is the issue of ESCOM, that councillors don't switch on the lights. But a community member that lives in the community that doesn't have electricity feels that the government should be able to switch on the lights, and at the time that the government that they see is the councillor. That's the first thing. The other thing is that maybe communities don't also understand that councillors don't deal with the administrative part of service delivery. That, for instance, if there's a pothole on the road, and it has been reported, and the councillor has reported the matter and logged the call, and an entity that is responsible for fixing the pothole is supposed to act onto it. And it takes longer to react or to respond to the fixing of the pothole. When the community get agitated, they don't get agitated against the administrative official that is supposed to be the one that is actually fixing the pothole. They look at the councillor and they think that the councillor is the one that is failing them. Once again, the issue of the management of COVID-19, one of the mechanisms that the government is there to cushion has put in place of the lockdown to communities is provision of food parcels. Communities, the councillors don't distribute food parcels. There is a process that is government driven, that is driven by a government department, which is social development, which deals with the distribution of food parcels. But communities, because they only deal with their councillor, they think and believe that when it is taking longer for them to have access to their food parcel, it is the responsibility of the councillor to ensure that they receive that. But the councillor sometimes is equally as frustrated as they are. So I think that the way that our governance structure is configured sometimes is what causes the problem, because it takes longer for the administration to respond, and the councillors are the ones that receive the backlash from the communities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Councillor Zonela. As I'm calling Councillor Alison Roberts to the podium, I just want to remind our viewers that we are live on Facebook on Nongeba Mulwele or Sipo Zek Masiho, and on YouTube at Councillor Nongeba Mulwele, as well as Twitter, speaker _COJ. Please, we welcome your comments and your suggestions as the viewers. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also think that there's often a breakdown in communication with regard to the processes of council when it comes to budgeting and getting allocation to have infrastructure upgrades put in, and to try and match budget availability to actually cater. Sorry, can you not hear me?
Councillor Roberts, I think there's a problem with your line. We're struggling to hear you.
Okay.
If maybe you can change your sitting position also at your place, please.
Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, no, there's a problem with your connection.
Line.
Okay.
Yeah, I think your line has a problem. Just try again, speak.
Okay, is that better now?
No.
No. Okay, I'm going to try headphones. Maybe come back to me.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Nodenja. Maybe once Councillor Robert is still fixing her line, if you could make a comment.
Thank you, Speaker. I think we need more communication with the communities to build that understanding. They have to understand the roles of the councillors, because as my colleague just said, they mix these things. They think the councillor must do everything, but the councillor can go so far and not further. So it is a problem. We need to use all modes of communication with the communities, especially maybe trying even the community radios. Then we must build, as the city, we need to build that understanding that they must know that, yes, they have a ward councillor, but there are areas where that councillor cannot really do the work herself or himself. So I think it's the lack of communication and understanding.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Mfikwe.
Yes, Speaker, thank you very much. Let me agree with the two councillors, Councillor Novella and Zonella, and Councillor Nondenja. I think and these sessions of yours, I think they really help and would go a long way in communities understanding and appreciating the role of councillors. Because I think we have not really educated our communities so that they understand that the councillor is not making a decision about what needs to be done. As well, clarifying the role of the community itself in the life and functioning of council. And for such as you are going to, in a few weeks' time, open up that IDP session. Our people do not understand that that is their session. In those sessions, they must be able to say to council, can you please implement these programs for the development and benefit of the community? You will find that the IDP processes pass, then out of the blue, people would want a hall or they will want a recreational facility. And when councillors explain that those things need to be in the IDP, they need to be budgeted for, then communities fight with councillors. So the other thing is that purely as Councillor Nontenja is saying, because people are staying with their ward councillors, they became the best next representative of government that is closer to them, that is nearer to them. So it becomes a bit of an issue that some of the issues that councillors must deal with in actual fact are issues that are at the national government level, including at the provincial level. But because councillors are staying with them, then they take the brunt for that as well. In relation to the COVID issues, we know that we are giving the dictates or the instructions by national government. Then they will filter down to the provincial government. We have the coordinating committees nationally, provincially, including in the municipality as well. Then the role of councillors there, Madam Speaker, is for us to be able to assist in the implementation of those regulations, including helping to monitor the implementation thereof. And like sorting out the social distancing issues, ensuring that people are able to know where they can go to test if they need to test, or where they can go for screening if they need to, including saying to government, these are the challenges that I am getting as a council. We need to emphasize and forever emphasize the fact that councillors do not distribute food parcels. And that is not a decision that we took individually as councillors. It is a provincial government decision. It was endorsed by national government, because we don't want people to come and say all the stories that we're reading in papers. And Madam Speaker, we must say, and proudly so, that your 270 councillors, none of them has been caught with food parcels. None of them has distributed food parcels. Other people could, but as councillors, 270, none of them has been arrested, because government, when they picked up these things happening in other provinces, Gauteng made a call that none of our councillors are going to distribute food. So they are not distributing food. They must work, of course, and understand social development must take them into consideration as to how many people are giving food, how many food has been delivered, so that councillors have that information, but they do not distribute food parcels. And I felt that I needed to talk about this because it is a constant problem for our ward councillors especially, and PR councillors that are living and working within our communities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Oh, Councillor Mfigwe, I'm very glad that you raised that issue of councillors distributing food, which then takes us to my next question, because the next question that I wanted to ask is the perception that is out there that councillors are corrupt. You know, so almost 50% of people, when they talk about councillors, they will tell you how corrupt councillors are. So maybe we need to clear this perception and also to outline what is the process of government, of local government, where a councillor is found to be corrupt, rather than having a blanket approach and paint all the councillors with the same brush. So maybe the next speakers should also speak, as much as we will be speaking on the role of councillors and the challenges therefore, but let us also speak on the issue of corruption, which is a common issue that is out there in the public domain. Councillor Roberts, are you okay now? If you are not okay, may I request that you switch off your camera and maybe use a voice? Maybe
can you hear me now?
Just okay. Speak with, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there is a great perception that councillors can do incredible things when it comes to projects and contracts, etc. But we are governed by law, and often, well, more often than not, it's a perception that a councillor is corrupt. I think that people are very quick to try and believe the worst. In the meantime, in my experience, most councillors are there doing the best that they can for their communities. And we are governed by processes. And if people have good evidence that there is corruption, yes, it's their obligation to report it. But I feel that a lot of the time, these allegations are based on perception, and sometimes cases where somebody wanted a contract, they weren't awarded the contract, and they try and force the process to a standstill. And in the end, that just costs our ratepayers more than it would be to perhaps understand the processes a whole lot better and let a project proceed if it has followed due process.
Thank you.
Maybe
Thank you.
I could add, Speaker. Part of another challenge that we probably need to talk about, just adding on what Councillor Robert was saying, is the delivery of projects in our ward. And that is where we find most of the time that there are problems and allegations towards councillors. There's a process that would be undertaken. I had started about it, that you start with the IDP, then the city through its one of, I forgot what is the department, will do prioritization, then there will be allocation of budget, then there will be itemized as to what is it that needs to be bought or what is it that needs to be developed. And Councillor Nontenga, because she's responsible for municipal scope, she has to assist us here as well. Then departments and entities would then issue out a tender. Then a tender will be advertised, processes will be done, a company will be appointed. Once the company is being appointed for particular wards, that process, councillors are not part of it at all up until appointment. Up until awarding of the contract, signing and everything else, councillors are not there. Then what happens is that the department responsible will then get in touch with the ward councillor and say to the ward councillor, we are going to develop this, whether it's a road, a hall, or something in your ward. Can you please call a public meeting where a contractor will be introduced? Because that is where problems start there. Then a meeting will be called, then people will start accusing the councillor. Yeah, you appointed your friends, you appointed people that you know, without understanding that the only thing that the councillor is doing is taking this department and the contractor to the constituency to be introduced. Then there will be processes. Another big fight that we always find in our communities is the appointment of a so-called CNO, which I think as a speaker, you might have said with cases and complaints, probably Councillor Nontenga as well. You know, this part of appointment of CNO, the decision that council under the ANC has taken is that no councillor sits there. The process will be done by what we call the ward government. It's the office somewhere at regions where the RG sits, they're advertised, then a preferred candidate will be appointed through interviews. Then through them and how they engage with the main contractor, people that are going, whether it's laborers or SMMEs, are going to be appointed. That presents its own challenges as well, you know, because it's little money sometimes, or just of the cake, just a small piece of cake where everybody wants to have a piece of. And because people are going to be aggrieved when they don't get it and come back and blame councillors. Councillors do not issue contracts, councillors do not deal with tenders. It is purely an administrative thing that is dealt by managers, the CM, MDs in companies, and everybody else. So I felt that I needed to add on that as well, because that is where part of corruption comes in. You know, because I am an SMME, I did not get a piece of the cake, I become aggrieved because the councillor introduced with the department, then the councillor is corrupt. So part of the issue that we constantly need to educate our people is that councillors do not speak in the tendering processes, as well as the fact that there is regulations and legislation that speak to that effect. So councillors know. And we were asking what should be done. You are there as a speaker, there's the chief whip as well. So between the two of you, if people have grievances against councillors, they must bring those to you. Then you will put together processes of investigation. And it doesn't mean that when people have reported Mativiso to the speaker, it means that Mativiso is guilty. So there should be a process that the speaker and the chief whip will undertake, including finding proper channels to investigate. If there is quantitative information and qualitative information, then action will be taken on those councillors. The ANC has actually fired 2 of their councillors when it was reported that they had sold pieces of land and investigations was done, then they were found guilty, they were fired by the ANC. So that processes do happen. But this notion that councillors are corrupt, as I agree that it could be a myth most of the 99% of the time. Statements that are made without proper investigation. And when we say bring proof, people are saying we're defending our councillors, which is a normal and electoral process that must happen. Thank you.
Okay, and maybe Councillor Zonela is serving in the ethics committee. So I think maybe Councillor Zonela can also give a little bit of a light, as well as Councillor Nontenja on MPEC issues. For viewers who might not know, Councillor Mfigwe, what a CLO is. CLO is a council liaison officer, community liaison or officer, a person who works with the contractor in making sure that the construction is happening and people do get jobs. So that is a council liaison officer. I'm happy you spoke about the project, because sometimes people stop the projects and only to find that that particular project was the project that was going to benefit the community. But because of these misunderstandings, then people would stop projects. Maybe if Councillor Zonela could take us through the process as to what happens for a person to land in ethics. And when you are in ethics, what are the issues that you look at to reach a conclusion of that a person who's accused of being corrupt is indeed corrupt, or a person is not corrupt. So what, just without divulging more information which is confidential, Councillor Zonela, but just for the viewers to understand the process and the fact that there are processes in place. When somebody is being accused of corruption, but there are processes in place, I'm glad that the Chief Whip has sent you here as well, because you are sitting in the ethics committee. After you, I'll allow Councillor Thandi Nontenja, and we'll hear from Sipho if we have comments from our viewers.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the issue of corruption is a serious problem that we have in our society. And I think that the government has taken a conscious decision that tolerate it. Now, when you're dealing with public finances or public service, there will always be that perception that the system is corrupt but whether that perception is real or imagined is immaterial, but it's there. But what does government do then to respond to such perception or to dispel such perception? First thing is that you must put in systems in place that will make it impossible, or at least that will prevent people from performing corrupt activities. For instance, in the city of Johannesburg, we, as it was alluded before, there is what we call an ethics committee of council. The ethics committee of council deals with issues of misconduct that are leveled against councillors. And it's a committee that councillors can actually, communities can actually reach out to if they feel that there has been an act of corruption or misconduct on the side of the councillor, because councillors are governed by the code of conduct, which is a legislated document. So if anybody feels that the councillor has breached the code of conduct, They can reach out to the chief whip, they can reach out to the speaker in writing and present their case. So what the Speaker of Council then does is they then refer the matter to, if they feel that there has been a possibility that the code of conduct has been breached, they then refer the matter to the Ethics Committee, and the Ethics Committee conducts the investigation. If the Ethics Committee feels that it doesn't have enough capacity to conduct the investigation on their own, they would then hand the matter over to the Integrity Commissioner. The Integrity Commissioner will do the investigation, and once he concludes his case, he will then back to the Ethics Committee. Then recommendations will be made. But the guiding document of that is the Constitution and is the Code of Conduct. And people do get penalized. Some people get acquitted, but both the person that is making the allegation are given an opportunity to be heard. They can present their own side of their stories, because sometimes it is not a matter of the councillor is corrupt. It could just be a matter of maybe there was a misunderstanding on how the policy unfolds. Like Councillor Mpiko had said that, for instance, the issue of the appointment of CLOs in communities when there are projects. Yes, there is an issue of poverty. There's an issue of, we know our socio-economic challenges in our society, but there can only be one CLO in a project. And that process is not driven by councillors. It's a process that is driven by ward governance. All that the councillor does is to introduce the project, tell the community that there is going to be a process where people are going to apply and they can be interviewed and then they can be appointed. But most of the times people will feel that, no, the councillor is the one that is, and councillors do that sometimes, but most of the times councillors don't do that. So the moment the councillor is the one that is coming up to introduce the CLO, people feel that it means the councillor, this is the one that the councillor had favored. So I'm saying, Madam Speaker, that there is a process, there is an avenue for communities to come out and actually place their grievances, and those grievances are taken very seriously and they get investigated. And there is a different, there are different penalties that are leveled on councillors that are found guilty. And that ranges from you being fined, you being suspended without pay, or even get expelled. It depends on the gravity of the offense and how the committee feels. What else? What was the second portion of your question, Madam Speaker?
I think you have covered. I think you have covered so far, Councillor Zonela.
On the part that the provincial government also gets involved, because whatever decision that the committee takes, it gets endorsed by the council and then it goes into the provincial government and it gets endorsed there or ratified. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Very informative indeed. Councillor Nontenja?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think these platforms are gonna help the communities, because as we said earlier on, it's not more on saying whatever is said is true. There is lack of communication and understanding. So I believe this platform will make a huge difference. As my colleague just said, councillors are governed by a code of conduct, and they should abide by that. So we have systems in place. Councillors knows that they cannot do business with government. That's one of the things. So we cannot really say there is no corruption. There might be one or two or whatever number of individuals, not paint everyone with the same paintbrush. There are people who might be corrupt, but it doesn't mean that all councillors are corrupt. And when they are found, when those people who are suspecting them, they must come up with evidence that says this is the evidence, and there are steps that will be taken. For instance, in MPEC, when the AG's office gives us the report, and we found that there are people who are doing business with government and they're not supposed to be, or their families where they are not supposed to be, steps are taken to rectify that, to make sure that those people are penalized if there's a need, if they are found guilty. So it's a situation where there must be an understanding on the side of the communities, not to just level it on the councillors, but maybe the councillors, especially the ward councillors, because they are the ones who are on the fire line most of the time. They need to take this time of making sure that their constituencies are aware of these things, educate them, because some of them just have that notion that when you are a councillor, you are corrupt. When you are somebody gets a job, that person must be connected. So it's education that's required here. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nontenja. As I will be giving the platform to Sipho, what will be next now is to talk about, because we've been talking about the normal way of councillors, of operations. So now with the challenges brought by COVID-19, because we know that the normal way of communicating or of disseminating information to the citizens, the councillor would call a meeting. We have a process in council where we say councillors should report how many times have you called a meeting in a month or so. So now with a new normal, so how should councillors be operating now in interacting with their communities and addressing the issues and overseeing the service delivery issues in the COVID-19 challenges? Sipho, if maybe you can just give us a hint on what the viewers are saying on this topic. I think it's a thorny topic, and it's a topic that needs to be discussed not only once, but many times. But we will be talking about the changes brought about COVID and how can councillors enhance their engagement with communities, and how can councillors work in a different way. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It is indeed a very interesting topic for everyone to understand exactly the role of our councillors. And I think indeed some of the myths or the stories that have been peddled about councillors, we needed to have this conversation to really just clarify to residents that in Johannesburg, how are we dealing with our councillors? And just the comments on Facebook and Twitter, I'll just go through them, Madam Speaker. I think maybe I'll try and do 5 at a time. There's a lot. So the first one comes from Mamorwa Gogolo. Mamorwa says, Councillor Mfikwe, thank you. I have been involved in food distribution, and we have encouraged our members of faith community to work with councillors, especially on the issue of food security. Some councillors have just been refusing to cooperate based on misinformation regarding collection and information and distribution. I'm happy that this is being clarified. Claude Johnson says, besides, it's always disgruntled people that cries wolf, not advocating corruption, but not every leader is corrupt, says Claude Johnson. Another one from Mamorwa says, leaders, how do we function where there are PR councillors and councillor of the ward is frustrating our PR councillor? And then last comment says, hello, all, Reverend Kokolo here. Thank you, leadership, for this session. As this representative of faith community, we do understand your frustrations, but we are open to work with you. Remember, we are also in contact with people at the local level. If you ignore us, we want to participate and we have problems. Information is very important. Bishop Simpiwe Duma says, how often should the councillor hold a ward or zonal meetings with the public? Madam Speaker, I think I'm going to leave it there, and then I'll come back to all the questions that the communities are facing. I don't know if that's okay with you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ntate Masigo. Can I open up this debate on the changes? How should councillors work differently now with a new norm, which will also respond to the question of, I think it's for Bishop Duma, on how often should a councillor hold meetings? as well as the role of the PR vis-a-vis the role of the ward councillor. We are left with 7 minutes because this session takes an hour. So an hour this time it's very short, and we have a lot to talk about. May I then we left with 7 minutes unless our background technicians give us more time, but we only have left 7 minutes. Councillor, who wants to be first on this one?
Madam Speaker,
Okay, Councillor Roberts.
just a quick comment. Social media becomes very important. WhatsApp groups become very important. And we need to be near our communities on those platforms. The downside is that people in informal settlements battle with electricity, they battle with money, buying data hasn't become cheap enough in our country yet. But wherever possible, we need to use ward committee members, we need to use WhatsApp and other social media forms wherever possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let me lay off your fears. The technical team is giving us 30 minutes extra. So we have 30 minutes. Okay, Councillor Ntenja, thank you very much.
Madam Speaker, I think from here we are learning something that says we are councillors, whether PR or ward. We need to work together as a team. So when there are issues, a PR cannot overlook a ward councillor. We have to work as a team. And we have to show that united front to the communities, because that's where the divisions comes from. If they see us divided, they start also to see that, okay, let's not go with this one, let's go with that one. This one is like this. So we have to work together. And the role of the religious formations, Madam Speaker, those people are working with people. They're working, we are sharing the same constituencies, the same communities. We must never overlook their role, because where we can't get the message through ourselves, they can, if they are tasked with that. So we need all hands on the deck on this matter. But COVID-19 has shown us fires that we really need to work in other ways. I don't know how the ward councillors have to communicate with their constituencies at this point of time, but they have to try means, the city must try to use the bulk messages to have the messages going to those who have, and ask them to share with their neighbors and all that, that the information is like, the most important thing is for information to reach the recipients on the ground, so that they are not confused, so that they know what is expected of them and what is coming to their way. Because when they see that at such area there were food parcels, they start saying, well, the ward councillor has taken ours. It's not true. The ward councillor, as it was stated earlier on, as councillors, we are not even distributing the food. That message must get to the people. Knowing it ourselves doesn't really help the people on the ground, because they will still attack the poor councillor in the ward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Antonella, yes.
Madam Speaker, I think I will probably just respond holistically to the question. I think the important thing is that we need to be conscious more than anything that it is about servant leadership, and it is about putting people first. It is not a contestation of political parties about who's doing what. It is about putting people first and putting their interests. And once there is an agreement amongst all the role players that is what the intention is, I think then everything easily falls into place. As you said, that we also need to learn a new normal, that it would no longer, we're moving in a direction where it will no longer be possible for us to convene communities in a big hall and have a conversation about what we think the priorities should be. But at the same time, we can't postpone governance and we can't compromise public participation just because we are dealing with a pandemic. So now that brings us to what tools can we use and can we utilize to ensure that governance is done and is done with integrity and is done with people at the center of it, and it is done with public participating. One, the use of ICT is going to be very central. I think the municipality must start thinking about how it develops working apps to ensure that communities are able to log their calls online and they're able to get a quicker response. This is the one thing. The second thing is that we also need to ensure that we refocus what our priorities are in terms of service delivery. That, as we said, that the intention really is to serve the residents of Johannesburg and is to ensure that we improve their daily experiences, that grass still gets to be cut, water outages are limited, electricity outages are limited, and where it is intended, where it is absolutely necessary for such outages to happen, it must be communicated properly. So information communication, IT gonna have to be very central to our communication strategies. And secondly, the other issue will be maybe to start having block meetings and street committees, work with smaller communities, with smaller number of people, and divide the communities in terms of blocks and I forgot the name that I wanted to use, but just ensure that you communicate with people and maybe you divide the word into smaller portions that you can easily reach out to and communicate with. So it is going to need a lot of partnership with all the stakeholders in the communities, with NGOs, with community organizations, with youth organizations, with every to be part and parcel of the new normal of how we are doing the work. It is there, it is in the legislation, we just need to intensify it more. And maybe towards the end, you will also tell us what your thinking is in terms of how you think we are going to be able to conduct our council meetings going forward, how a Section 79 is going to sit in order for them to continue to perform oversight the executive. So maybe those are the kind of things that we must start thinking about now as we are moving towards the new normal, which I don't think we will be able to reverse even beyond COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mfikwe. Thank you very much, Councillor Zonela. Councillor Mfikwe. Okay, Councillor Mfikwe, are you disconnected? All right, let's get comments. Sipo, Maseko, do you have comments on this aspect?
Yes, I do, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Yes, I do, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for that. Firstly, I think a very light-hearted message that came here from Mamurako Kokolo says, Honorable Speaker, are you not on lockdown here? We don't have a sea or a beach in Johannesburg. That's the first one. And then the next comment is from Gear Up Mlashe says, generally, what is the community and councillors communication model? Is it the duty of the community member to seek the councillor when they need assistance, or is it the councillor's duty to regularly check up on community members? During election campaigns, councillors are visible everywhere, and they even do door-to-door campaigns. On those campaigns, community members are able to share their concerns. Why is it that after campaigns they don't come back? Lastly, during this COVID time, communities are urged to stay at home. What does this mean, or what means of communication do councillors use to reach to communities? The next comment comes from Claude Johnson. He says, it is such a breath of fresh air to see and hear the leadership dealing with the pink elephants in the room. And the last two comments I think those are just saying great work and good work, Madam Speaker. I've got a councillor, Nyameli Mongameli, who also says, our people think that councillors have budget, not knowing that councillors have not even a 10 cents budget, but councillors have to escalate the issues to the community, to the relevant departments. He goes on to say, thanks, Madam Speaker, and your team for bringing this important topic at the time when the whole country is misunderstanding the role of councillors in the community. I hope that after this progressive meeting, people will work nicely with councillors, because now everything about the duties of councillors have been clarified, and hope that this can even go on after COVID-19. There are more comments, Madam Speaker, but I think let me allow you to deal with these ones first, and then we'll come back to the last batch of comments and questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masiho. Councillors, you heard that there are perceptions that councillors carry a lot of money. When they say the budget of the city of Johannesburg is 40 billion, so people think that this 40 billion is in the hands of councillors. Can you maybe clarify that as to where do councillors see the budget? Because they see the budget in those agendas that we get, and they don't really get to touch the money. And even when there are projects, people think that the councillor has, if the project is not successful, they will say to you, yeah, the councillor has eaten the money. But what I want us now also to focus our discussion on the new norm. I know that Councillor Zonela, you spoke a lot about the new normal. What is it that councillors need to do now, which includes saving their own communities from getting infected and supporting the communities that have already been infected? So what is the role? Because we did allude to the fact that councillors are representatives of the people. So even during COVID-19, councillors still remain representatives of the people. One, in terms of the service delivery, the monies, and also how do we save our communities from this pandemic? How do we play a role in communities observing the protocols, the regulations that have been put in place? Councillor Mfikwe has disappeared. I'm not sure whether she's still there. All right, Councillor
Madam
Robert.
Speaker.
Yes, Masiho.
No, I've just got a message now that her electricity ESCOM just dealt with her, so she's off completely. So she would like to apologize.
So at least she's a champion of service delivery. So she will be able to assist the communities around her, because it's not only her who's affected, it's the whole community. So when she resolves that, the whole community will benefit, because she represents the community in the area. We are sorry for that. I had the same problem this morning. Councillor Roberts.
Indeed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah, I think Councillor Mfikwe did touch on budget processes, and the city has both a capital expenditure budget and an operational expenditure budget. And those two different budgets need to be understood. And yes, we do not have direct control over budget, and people seem to think that we do. The operational budget is spent when there are breakdowns, when things go wrong. And people need to understand that it's not that the councillor can now say, you must go and dig the trench, which contractor must be assigned. That is done on a depot-to-depot level. People who are registered with the city to do the work. And it's not us that make the decision on who can go and do that. Capital budget, I think Councillor Mfikwe has touched on projects and the processes that go into that, as well as Councillor Zanele. The question of councillors disappear after the elections. Councillors have a dual function of attending meetings that council call and that we need to participate in for the functioning of council. And then also we have our community meetings. So I think Councillor Zanele summed up very well our new normal. But communication is a two-way street. I often find that somebody will report their street light that is out. And 3 months down the line, I get this phone call of somebody who's very angry and frustrated. And I say to them, but you know, if you had let me know that you had a problem a week after it had not been resolved, I would have been here to help you. So communication is a two-way street. Councillors have very big wards. We have a lot of people in our wards more than ever before with urbanisation and densification. So if there is a need in an area, we also appreciate community letting us know so we can be on the ground with them, as well as us calling meetings and being there for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe before the next councillor speak, the difference between the two categories of councillors. The ward councillor is the councillor who is directly voted by communities in the area. When you see during elections, the faces on boards, those are ward councillors. They directly voted. And then the PR councillors is proportional representation councillors who are deployed by parties as party representatives. They're not necessarily directly voted by councillor. For example, I'm one of the PR councillors and I have a ward councillor in my area. So it is important that these two councillors, they work together. I think it's Councillor Nontenja who gave that kind of an input, that it is important that whether you are a PR councillor or you are a ward councillor, the fact is the mandate is one, it is the mandate of the communities. Councillor Zanele.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think on the issue of how councillors will be able to effectively serve communities in the new normal, as we put it. And the question that was also asked about whether it is the responsibility of the communities to chase councillors around, or should the councillors go to the communities. I think, Speaker, with all intents and purposes, we must appreciate that it will be impossible for the councillor to be everywhere at once. So the issue of governance and community service is a two-way street. It is a partnership, like I said before, that it is not about who went to who, but it is about us working together as communities and as councillors to ensure that services are provided into the communities. If it's possible for a community member, or it's easier for a community member to reach out to the councillor, let that happen. And if it is possible for the councillor to reach out to the community, let that happen. There are community meetings that councillors call public meetings. I think it happens once every quarter or once every month. Where issues that are affecting the communities are raised and tackled there. There are ward committees that also work with the councillor, that deal with different portfolios in the ward, that are also working as advisors to the ward committee. Let communities utilize those people because they also vote for them. There are street and block committees that are formed in various communities depending on the demographics of the ward and how it is composed. Those street committees must work together with the people to ensure that there is work that is done and there is service that is provided into the communities. Then there is issues of technology, like I said, that most of the ward councillors now have got community groups, chat rooms that they use to escalate service delivery issues. They report whatever that is happening, and they are working very effectively. And I think that is something that is a tool that communities or what councillors should start thinking about utilizing to reach out to as many residents as possible. There is other community organizations like CPFs, churches, community-based organizations, youth clubs, and so on. And those are stakeholders that are living in the ward. It is important that each and every ward councillor should know who the stakeholders in the ward are and how they can work together as partners to ensure that there is governance, there is effective governance, and there is effective service delivery in their communities. So which then takes us to also the issue of PR and ward councillor. I don't think it should be seen as a competition between the two. It is a partnership. It is more resources that are provided for people to be able to reach out. If you're not able to find your ward councillor, you are able to find your PR councillor. The reporting point is the same, and then it will whatever the queries and the issues are, they will be resolved at that level. Like I said, Madam Speaker, it's a very sensitive period. People are very anxious that they may get ill. People are very anxious that they may lose their loved ones. And we don't know how long this pandemic is going to stay with us. It is very important that we work together. It is very important that we reach out to each other and comfort each other at this moment, and deal with each other with empathy and sympathy. So it is a very confusing time. People are locked up in their homes. Some people don't even have food. So if you know that your neighbor may not have food and the councillor may not even be aware that there is that family that doesn't have food, there are NGOs that are going around in communities that are working in partnership with the government and the councillors in the ward. Reach out to the councillor and say, look, I know that you guys have been distributing food in these areas. Could you please make sure that that family that is child-headed, that family that has got an elderly mother with 10 or 15 grandchildren who don't have food, at least has got something. So it is about Ubuntu, really, Madam Speaker. It is about Ubuntu. It is about us reaching out to each other and dealing with each other with empathy. And then maybe then if we're able to unite at that level, we can be able to overcome whatever the effects of this pandemic will be, because we don't know what the future will be indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see, Sipho, you have comments. Are you even laughing at your comments? So there's interesting comments from our viewers. Tell Councillor, is it Councillor? No, Bishop Khololo, that we are trying to be creative with the technology. It's new norm. That's why there's now a beach in Johannesburg. The new normal of working. Yes.
Also, just my humble apologies to Bishop Khololo. She did correct me. I must pronounce her surname correctly. So, Intwarele Mama. Just a few comments. There's Tulile Sweetness Mchali says, Madam Speaker and Leadership, thank you for this session. Mashezi Zaba says, thank you, Speaker, great topic. She also sent through some questions that she wanted to get clarity on, Madam Speaker, and this one relates to the issues of ward committees, and just trying to get through to that question quickly. And she says here, during COVID-19, what effective methods has the legislature arm utilized to reach communities, stakeholders, and councillors? When will COJ Wi-Fi be reinstated in our communities? Ward committees legislated and are meant to beef up the Speaker's office. Are they active during this time? If not, what are the challenges around ward committees? Can they help councillors, and are they involved in assisting at the moment? And there's another one that I saw. Okay, I think, Chotetsi Cho Tatlani says, Mashezi, some ward councillors, they lack integrity, and the problem is us, because we tend to choose our friends to lead us. Mashezi then responds and says, while once a councillor is elected, she or he must not service everybody just because of the political party that sends him or her to council. We did not vote for current because we knew she was not community entrenched activist. So I think this is a branch issue. And then Kitumeti says, are there any standard operating procedures that guide councillors to consult the community during this era to comply with the stipulated regulations? So I think I'm gonna leave it there, but everybody who's commenting now is really happy with this discussion, and it's eye-opening indeed, Madam Speaker. So I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you very much. We 17-18. Okay, we almost at the end of our discussions, but very interesting discussions indeed. And I think it's long overdue for our communities to understand the role of their public representatives. So there are questions that have been posed by our viewers. One, it is I think on the issue of the reinstatement of Wi-Fi connection, we might have to invite Councillor MMC Jolidi Matongo. I think this is under his department, to just give us maybe the process or progress on the rollout of the installation of the network. I saw in my area where I stay, there was no network, but I see they are busy putting, they are busy installing the network access in the area. But I think he will have the schedule of the rollout. We can get that. The functioning of ward committees, indeed, the chairperson of a ward committee is the ward councillor, because the ward committee is an advisory body to ward councillors. So I will also hand over to councillors to comment on the ward committees and the role of ward committees, and how do we think in this new normal ward committees should function. So that will also assist the speaker, as the role of ward committees are under the speaker's office. Mamuno Ntenja?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think on the role of the ward committees under the situation that we are in now, they should all be focusing on the COVID-19, regardless of which portfolio a person falls under. They must just put their hands together and focus to assist the councillor. And to say the councillor should be the one who's consulting everyone, it's impossible, because these wards are so big and congested. So if the 10 people, the ward committee members, are assigned in different areas, you deal with that area, you deal with that area, maybe they come up with their own groups now, let's say WhatsApp group, because most of the ward councillors have WhatsApp groups these days. So they must think out of the box and come up with innovative ways of reaching out there. But they have to reach out there and assist the councillor. They must be not just be waiting for the meetings of the ward committee. They must put their hands on the deck as well and assist. On the matter of the budget that Councillor Mnyameni raised, thank you so much for raising that one, because people really think that the councillors have the budget. We need to communicate this to our communities, that the councillors don't have anything to do with the budget except to ensure that the budget passes, and also doing an oversight to see that if Area A was given a budget for this, is it done by the officials or not? If not, why not? So that's the role of the councillors, not to keep the budget themselves. But in this new norm, we really need to assist our communities. We must also make use of the community radios. It's high time that they plow back to the communities that they are living in. They cannot expect the city to put up adverts that are paid. They must play their role also by having some clips that are going to be heard by the community when there is something happening in their areas. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Councillor Zonela, yeah.
I think, Speaker, the issue of the integrity of councillors and how they are elected. Look, I think, Speaker, it's the issue of the election of what councillors and the processes that are followed is a political party issue. I can only speak for my own political party that for the ANC, the issue of the nomination of political parties is something that we have thrown into the communities to ensure that it is a community-driven process, that it is not only the structures of the ANC internally that are responsible for deciding who must become the councillor. The scrutiny is also given out, and an opportunity is also given out to community members to be able to scrutinize the candidates as the ANC is putting forward. So there is a whole lot of process. First of all, that you get elected, nominated within your party, and then once that person's candidature has been put out, then there is a public participation process which is done when the ANC branch in the ward convenes a public meeting and invites all members of the public, of the community in that ward, to be able to come and scrutinize the candidate and raise their issues there. So it is an intense process that ensures that we ensure that whoever that gets elected is a person that lives amongst the community and is a person that has got the support of that community and is a person of integrity. So yeah, that's all I can say about the issue of integrity. It all goes back to how the decisions are made. So it's important that people participate in those processes. They raise their questions, their concerns there, and there is an opportunity to object if they feel that the candidate that the ANC is putting forward is indeed a person with a compromised integrity. What else? The issue of data. Yeah, I think the issue of data must fall campaign now is more urgent. More than any other time. I know that there is a process that was started in the COJ to ensure that there is data that is available there is access for communities to have access to Wi-Fi. I think maybe, Madam Speaker, as you said, that's something that conversation that the executive must have, so that we are able to ensure that each and everybody has got access data. As we are saying, we're going to move to a more IT-driven communication process. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, councillors. To our viewers, we are talking today about the role of councillors. What is the role of a councillor within the communities? We started with the role of a councillor before COVID-19. We also now discussing the role of a councillor during the pandemic and beyond the pandemic. So we have been having a robust engagement with councillors of the city of Johannesburg on the role of councillors and giving clarity to our communities on how to engage with our own councillors. We are left with 4 minutes now. I think in the 4 minutes, if I can have the last bite from councillors as a wrap up, what do you think should happen during this time and beyond? And how do we make sure that we bring back the integrity of councillors, and how do we make sure that we service our communities as they have voted for us to service them? How do we interact with our communities, and how do we disseminate information of how do council work? Just a few minutes wrap up from all our participants before I can close off the meeting. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I think to echo the words of our Mayor, individual responsibility and social solidarity. And I think both of those are very important. we need to be responsible for ourselves in our actions, social distancing, washing our hands, wearing our masks, as well as having a social solidarity of standing together, standing in support of each other, so that we can go forward together and not as a divided community, because that is the only way that we're going to win this battle. I know my signal isn't good, so I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your wrapping comments, Councillor Nontenja.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's important to keep on communicating. Communication, communication, communication. The people on the ground are frustrated. If there is no communication, they're going to be worse frustrated. So we have to keep them informed. And as the public reps, it's our duty to ensure that they know what's going on. They know what's going to happen. They are always informed of what's going on in their lives. Because if we miss that opportunity, we might find ourselves, our hands full, and we won't know what to do with them. So it's important to communicate with the people so that you allay their fears. You show that you really care. This government must be a response.
Thank you very much. I think there's a problem with communication there. Councillor Nontenja. Okay. Are you back?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Nontenja. Councillor Zonela?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's just important for us to be a people-centered local government that puts the interest first, that serves people with integrity, that doesn't discriminate, that serves everybody across the color line, across political party affiliation, and ensure that everybody is happy and is satisfied. I think it's also important for us to continue to adhere to the lockdown regulations and respond to the call of the president to remain at home, to wash our hands and practice social distancing to ensure that we limit the effect of the COVID-19. Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity to participate in this.
Yeah, thank you very much, councillors. I want to thank each and every one of you for making time to come and do this kind of education that also the speaker is running in partnership with Dr. Fundi Nyati. Dr. Nyati, thank you very much for your patience and partnering with the city in educating our communities. We are of service to the people. I think what came out this afternoon is the importance during this time not to lose touch, councillors not to lose touch with communities in order to allay fears and distribute credible information to our communities. And the fact that as councillors, we need to move with times. We need to change the way we work. We are preparing, we had a meeting with political leaders today on the new preparation for the new normal, on how are we going to use IT, as Councillor Zonela has indicated, and all of you panelists, that now we are in the new world where we have to use IT as our means of communications. We will be holding a council meeting on visual. We are trying by all means to make sure that our communities are not left behind. We have spoken to our IT specialists that we need to live stream council meetings so that our communities become part of it. We are going to do our IDP process as well online as per the regulation that came out on the 7th of May, that our IDP and budget process should be online. We will also be using our media, social media, as well as our radios and TVs. With this, thank you very much. I really appreciate all of you councillors, Dr. Nyati, Mr. Masiho, thank you very much. Until, and especially our viewers, thank you for your comments. Some of the comments, we shall respond to them as we start our next topic next week. We will go through comments that we could not read today, and we will have responses next week before we start the new topic next week. Thank you very much. Let us meet again next week, Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Dr. Nyati, do you want to say something? Are you better with your echo now? You're fine. Okay. So until we meet on Wednesday next week, 4 o'clock sharp. Thank you very much. And thank you to our viewers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Bye.
Bye.
Are you looking at the side?